Gene Ehrbar.
Yes, as the other Gene on the panel, Gene Ehrbar, the Director of Mobile Solutions for ISITE Design. ISITE is about 65-person now, full-service digital agency, headquartered here in Portland. About a third of our people are also in Boston, Massachusetts. We like to think of ourselves as a digital agency that specializes in serving brands who differentiate on customer experience. So what does that mean? Essentially what that means is that you look at who you're really serving when you're building out digital solutions for a brand. And ultimately what it comes down to is that at the end of every transaction, there's a customer, and they're really in the age of the customer, they're in the lead. So what we've attempted to do is frame all of our services, all of our 5 practice groups around this idea of helping brands lead and lead in excelling in customer experience and using that to differentiate against their competitors. Where this took a turn for me in my personal career, I started out as a freelance web developer. I've been working in web technologies for 15, 16 years now. Ran my own agency for a number of years and came to ISITE after becoming a mobile developer because they had a compelling need to develop mobile capabilities. You know, when you're a 15-year-old digital agency and you grow up with the web, your capabilities sort of start with and at the time end with the web, since the web essentially was digital. It could be Flash, it could be games, but it's all essentially web-based. About 4 years ago, that really started to pivot and shift rapidly, and agencies that knew what they were doing quickly retooled to build and add capabilities for building out mobile applications, mobile websites. Having experience with both, I came to ISITE with the idea of building out a practice group dedicated to mobile solutions. The real kernel of that is that you can't look at any one customer experience now in the digital realm as siloed in any one facet of it. So if you're building out a web experience, if you're starting with a web experience, then you're probably overlooking quite a bit of touch points and quite a few steps along the way. So by elevating this idea of serving mobile users to a level of prominence, what we've said is when we lead with digital strategy, mobile strategy is part and parcel of that, and what solution we end up rolling out is really more on the basis of what the individual customer experience for each particular brand is. It may end up being a website, it may end up being a mobile app, it may end up being a hybrid approach, and some of the examples that we show will definitely, I think, illustrate that.
What do you do? Like, how hard is that to actually make? And what do you do when people come to you and say, we want that?
Sure. Well, you don't know how spot on you are because somebody came to us this week and asked us that very same question.
Oh,
said,
really?
okay, we tore down the Starbucks app, and that's what we want. I said, okay, how much money do you have? In all seriousness, though, there are, and actually there's a slide in here that kind of illustrates this pretty well. There are a couple of different considerations when you're really thinking about trying to. Here we go. So one of our oldest and dearest clients is the city of Cambridge, Massachusetts. There's the car talk guys say Cambridge, Ma. They're great friends of ours, but being a municipality of just over 100,000 people, they're not very well heeled. I mean, they're obviously well heeled people, but as a city, they don't have the kinds of piles of money that Starbucks has to build an app. So when they came to us, they have a I think there's one of these called PDX Reporter. It's basically a citizen reporting app, and it's great because if you're out in the wilds of Portland or Cambridge and you see a pothole and you think, I'd really like to tell the city about that so they can come and fill it for me. If you have a smartphone and you download their City of Cambridge iReport app, you can take a picture of it. Then it takes your location via geolocation, tap a few details about it. In fact, if you can read that from here, it's not just potholes, but graffiti, missed recycling pickups. I think we just added streetlights, and my favorite, you can report a rodent. If you happen to see a rodent out in Cambridge. If you're fast enough to take a picture of it, you get bonus points for that. But in this case, to get to Kevin's question, what was a huge consideration for them was, well, we obviously want this to be available to both at least Android and iPhone users, and as far as we know, that means building 2 apps. And when you're a small city with a small budget and you want to build 2 dedicated native mobile apps for your citizens, and you're told that that's multiple 6-figure engagement to get something like that built, it's really a non-starter unless you can come up with ways to cut costs. In this case, we were able to leverage PhoneGap, which is an open source platform that actually was acquired by Adobe a few months ago, maybe a little longer than a few months. And now the open source version of it is still out there, but Adobe is running PhoneGap as a commercial product. But what it does is it essentially allows you to deploy mobile apps. You write them once using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then package them for various platforms. So what we did with this is we built an app. We used a couple of plugin extensions to do things like access to the camera, which you can't get yet through HTML5. And then we were able, with one code base, to deploy it for both Android and iPhone. There are some experiential drawbacks to this. In this case, if you're an Android user, you'll notice their tabs are on the top. If you're an iPhone user, tabs for different sections of an app on the top would kind of confuse you. For budget reasons, both versions look like the iPhone version, or this Android version. So there are trade-offs. If we wanted to rebuild it slightly to work differently for iPhone and Android, we could if they wanted to spend more money on it. But as it stands, the uptake has been great. It connects directly to the city system on the back end, and as far as we know, it's been a very big success and was, from a budget standpoint, reasonably easy to do. Well, you made a great point about a fighting chance. I think mobile, for one thing, because it sort of levels the playing field for consumers, it gives small brands a fighting chance. And a great example of this is in the way that location-based search works now. In a market like Portland, where we're more geographically dense with small businesses, in relation to big businesses, for example, if you're in downtown Portland and you're searching for just a coffee shop, you are much more likely to come up with one in your immediate physical vicinity that's a mom and pop than you are to come up with a large chain store. And that may differ based on different markets, but you see a sort of democratization of search results by virtue of the fact that they're naturally more location relevant to you, which means by extension they become more culturally relevant. So it's not necessarily the advertiser or marketer that can afford the biggest billboard or the most TV advertising anymore that wins. It's the one that could be the most locally, culturally, and immediately personally relevant to whoever's doing the search.
But if you have millions of dollars, it helps.
Sure, if you want to try to squash those local businesses.
Yeah, I mean.